Hey everybody, welcome back to the Throwing Corners podcast. It's Kirby and Joseph here, coming to you on a Monday night. Joe, it has not been a great week in Braves country. It's been a much better week as an Astros fan. So we're gonna give some team updates. We're gonna talk maybe a little bit about some standings updates, and then about a couple of teams who are actually playing particularly well right now. So Joe, I'm going to kick it off to you for a quick Astros update, and then I'll give a Braves update, and then we'll talk a little bit around the league.
Drive into left, at the wall, it's gone! Tie game!
Yeah, so the last time we talked, which was Monday of last week, the Astros were in the middle of a game against the Texas Rangers. It was the first game of that series, a three-game series, for the Silver Boot. And yeah, that game was pretty interesting. The Astros would go up 3-0. 1-0 in the third, and then the Rangers would tie it in the fifth. They would both score a pair of runs in the eighth, and then they would go into extra innings. And in a season filled with gut-wrenching losses, this one felt like the icing on the cake, just because the Astros left so many runners on base all game. They had the bases loaded twice, uh, and only scored. They had the bases loaded twice with one out and only scored one run on one of those attempts. So it really just felt like a gut punch when the Astros would serve up a two-run home run with two outs in the bottom of the 10th to lose the game 4-3. Um, and basically, the way that the game shaped up was neither team wanted to score offensively, and then Ryan Presley came in after the Astros took the lead in the top of the eighth and immediately gave up the lead. Once again, back into the bullpen has been a killer for the Astros. And both him and Caleb Ferguson, who would serve up the two-run home run with two outs in the 10th, shook off Yainer Diaz the pitch before the home run. So it's just kind of funny that on both occasions, each pitcher shook Yainer off and then immediately served up a cookie that would tie the game, or in Caleb Ferguson's case, in the game. And Caleb Ferguson has not looked good as an Astro so far. I believe he's given up 4 runs in like 3 appearances that he's had. So he hasn't been good. It's not the same as Yusei Kikuchi has worked out. I don't know if he's just being stubborn and not listening to what the Astros are trying to implement with him, or if his stuff's just not there. I mean, he was bad with the Yankees. He had a career with the Dodgers, and he had been pretty decent up until this year with the Yankees, which he was on the first year, or he was on a 1-year deal. I don't remember. But yeah, that was a tough loss and a season filled with tough one-run losses. That had to be the icing on the cake, just because the Astros hadn't been playing well going into the series offensively, and it kind of just all accumulated into one loss. So it was good that the Astros were able to bounce back in a big way. Framber Valdez threw 8 2/3 innings. He had 5 strikeouts and 3 walks, and he was 1 out away from throwing a no-hitter. If it wasn't for Corey Seager, absolutely launching a home run off of him, we would have been talking about Framber Valdez and the Astros having another signature moment and in an era of signature moments for the Astros in this golden era. So that was really it was really something to watch. That was the only hit the Rangers would have, and it just kind of left a sour taste in my mouth, because it reminded me of the Yu Darvish perfect game where Marwin Gonzalez in the bottom of the ninth broke it up with a line drive right up the middle. I think that was in like 2013 or 14. I can't remember which one, but those were some tough times for the Astros, and that kind of reminded me of that. They finally got their payback for that one, not allowing Darvish to get that perfect game. But that was just a tough way to lose it with 2 outs in the ninth. So he still pitched great, and he's been dominant since around June, and he's looking like the true ace that he is again. And he hasn't been letting, you know, bad calls really affect him for a while. So it was good to see him pitch really good today as well. But moving on to the final game of the series and the tiebreaker for the Silver Boot. If y'all don't know, the Astros have won the Silver Boot 7 consecutive years. And honestly, if you ask me, none of that really matters because they lost the one series that truly mattered to the Rangers when it counted the most. But the Silver Boot is staying here in Houston for an 8th consecutive year. The Astros would win the 3rd game and final game against the Texas Rangers in 2024, 6-4. And Yusei Kikuchi, he pitched well again. He had 5 1/3 innings. He gave up 4 hits. Sorry, 2 runs. He had 8 strikeouts and 3 walks. So, the contact that he was giving up was a lot harder than the contact he had previously given up in the Rays game. So that was a little, concerning. But balls were finding gloves, so it's not too much, to complain about. He still got 8 strikeouts. The swing and miss was still there. They went really heavy on the slider this game. He threw that about 34% of the time. He threw his fastball 48% of the time, and his changeup 12% of the time. So once again, their game plan is to kind of ditch that curveball altogether, which he threw 6% of the time, and just limit the amount of damage that is able to be done on that pitch. And this was kind of the game where the offense really started to take off. This was the 2nd win in what has now been 6 consecutive wins for the Astros. And once again, it finished off a season series with the Rangers, with the Astros claiming the Silver Boot for the 8th consecutive year. And the Astros would then go move on up northeast to go play Boston in Fenway. And boy, do the Astros love playing in Fenway. They love to hit there. There and in South Oklahoma, they both love hitting there. They love hitting in both of those stadiums. And you can just tell that whenever their offense is down and they take a road trip to either one of those stadiums, they're going to come out on fire. And that's exactly what they've been doing these last 6 games. So the Astros would win the first game of that Red Sox series 4-8. 8-4. Jose Altuve had a big 2-run home run late in the game, and he kind of started a big rally in the 7th inning where the Astros would score 4, and then they would score 3 again in the 9th. And this is when the offense really started clicking. Bregman and Jordan each had a multi-hit game, and then Yainer Diaz, who has been hitting the cover off the ball, had another multi-hit game. And then moving on to the Saturday game, the Astros would win 5-4. They would score early in the first, and they would kind of, keep tacking on runs in the 6th, 7th, and 8th. But Boston would kind of creep back in around the 8th inning as well. They kind of hit Abreu a little bit, and I keep saying this, he scares me still this year. I know that his ERA is what it is. It's 2.76, but he still worries me whenever he comes in because he's kind of been effectively wild, and he's been prone to leaving pitches over the heart of the plate. His stuff just isn't moving the way that it has been in years past. But they kind of got some runs off of him, and they put that at a much closer win than what the box score really than what the box score should have said. But Bregman and Jordan had 2 huge games again, and this would kind of catapult them into winning co-player of the week. They both shared that honor this week. It was announced today, which was pretty cool to see because, like I said, they both started heating up in Arlington, and they just continued to kill it in Fenway. So moving on to the Sunday game, the Astros would sweep the Red Sox Alex Bregman would hit a 3-run home run, and then Jordan would follow up with a solo shot of his own as they would go back to back. Jeremy Pena also had a home run, and I believe Yainer Diaz had a home run in this one too. Or no, sorry, he had a 2-run double, and I believe he had a home run in the Saturday game. But it was really good to see the Astros won this game 10-2. They kept popping off late in the game again. They kept scoring runs. And they've been on a 6-game win streak, and that would carry over to today and tonight, where they would beat the Rays 6-1. Framber again pitched very well. He went 5 2/3 strong, and the Astros the Mariners have the night off, so the Astros are gaining games when the Mariners have off. They gain half of a game here. They're doing exactly what they need to do. Just to kind of separate themselves from the Mariners. And so Bregman and Yainer both had home runs for the Astros to kind of secure their win. Taylor Scott and Caleb Ort completed a 4-hitter after Framber came out. And Caleb Ort, he's been something special. Outside of Taylor Scott, his stuff ratings are the second highest on the team. And so I think that he's a real contender to be a key guy in that postseason bullpen, because the way that he's been throwing the ball, he's been throwing it really good. And I can only imagine that the Astros continue to give him innings and kind of try to start putting him into some high leverage situations just to see what he's made out of in those situations. Because I think that he will be a vital piece to the Astros' success if they want to make a long postseason run, just based off of the way that his stuff has been grading out. So, if they can continue to do that, then that would be great. And that kind of wraps up the recap for the Astros week. But there is some news injury wise. Justin Verlander pitched 3 innings on Saturday. And everything went according to plan. I think he gave up 1 run, but it's his first rehab start. No one's really watching the box score for that. He got up to 95, I believe, so that was good. And if everything heals correctly, then he should be out for a final rehab start, and then he will rejoin the team, and they will go to a 6-man rotation, which I think is great, because I think they need to limit the innings on Hunter Brown, Ronel Blanco, and then Spencer Arrighetti. And Spencer has been pitching great as of late. I believe he had 35 strikeouts in the span of 2 games, which is crazy. The Astros pitching staff in general has been getting a lot of swing and miss as of late, which has been really nice to see, because they do tend to walk a lot. So it's nice that they're starting to get swing and misses when they do put runners on base. But another injury update that I have is for Kyle Tucker, who we saw video of earlier today at Tropicana Field, getting some work in, and oh my God, he looks hurt. Like, he still looks hurt. There was a video of him catching a fly ball, or tracking a fly ball, and it looked like he was limping the entire time trying to get to that fly ball. So the Astros are saying that this was a really big step for him and that he's close to returning. But from what that looked like, I don't know if he was just like taking it easy, like doing it kind of lazily, just to, not hurt anything while they're on that rough surface and in the trop. But from the video that I saw and the other videos that I saw, with him fielding ground balls in the outfield and him doing kind of a jog or high knees, he still looked like he was in some pain when he was moving around. So I really don't know what the timeline is on him, but I mean, it's kind of crazy that it's taken this long for him to come back after a bone bruise is what they gave. But the Astros will look to secure the series win with Yusei Kikuchi on the mound tomorrow night, and then hopefully go for the sweep on Wednesday. It'll be interesting to see how Kikuchi utilizes that changeup slider mix, this being his second time facing the Rays in a week. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of adjustment the Rays make and what kind of adjustment the Astros make in the scouting department or the game planning department. Um, It'll be interesting to see if they stick with the game plan, go change up and slider heavy, if they maybe try to reincorporate that curveball. I don't know how many times the Rays have seen him while he's been with the Blue Jays, but they are in the same division, so it is likely that they have seen Kikuchi more than a couple times in the last handful of years, so they are familiar with him. So it should be interesting to see, kind of how the Astros approach his start tomorrow. Hopefully he can continue his hot streak with Houston and be that 3-starter that I truly believe he is. And kind of just keep rolling, keep the team rolling, keep himself rolling, and kind of finish the season strong. The Astros are 53 and let's see, hold on, let me get this right because it was a stat. They're on their second half pace. They're on pace to on pace to win 100 games, which is kind of crazy. It kind of just goes to show how bad that first month of the season really was for the Astros. They're 50 and 31 in their last 81 games, which is a 100 win pace. So it's not about how you start, it's about how you finish. The Astros have seen it twice, actually 3 times in the World Series, going up against a wild card Nationals team, a wild card Braves team, and then a getting into the postseason on the last day of the season Phillies team. So it is not about how you start, it is about how you finish. And if the Astros can just continue to play well, whether it be offensively or pitching, hopefully the Astros can get in the sort of rhythm where if their bats aren't picking the pitchers up, the pitchers are picking themselves up and not, giving up stupid hits, not, making stupid mistakes. And if the pitchers aren't picking the bats up, that the bats are going out there and scoring runs in bunches. We have not seen the Astros click like that so far this season. It would be really nice to see them kind of get in a rhythm now. The Astros schedule gets pretty tough after this. They play, I believe they play the Orioles and Phillies pretty close together, if not back to back, because they're on a road trip and Baltimore and Philadelphia are so close. So after the Rays, they go to Chicago, or they come back here to Houston and play against the White Sox and the Red Sox, and then they go to Baltimore. They play Baltimore for a 4-game series. They play Philly for a 3-game series, and then they play Kansas City. So those are all 4 of those teams outside of the White Sox are in contention for the postseason. So they really need to lock it down right now. It's good that they're on this groove right now, but they need to continue that. And they just need to keep gaining ground and just keep matching the Mariners at this point, because as many days go by, as many days continue to go by, it's less likely that the Mariners will catch the Astros. So they just need to go out there and take care of business, and hopefully start to play well against some better teams as well.
Well, Joe, I'm glad that the Astros had a great week because the Braves sure didn't. It's been a rough go since the All-Star break. They're well under 500 since the All-Star break, and that's not an exaggeration. I think they're like 3-7 in August. So needless to say, they had a terrible week. They went 1-5. They started off at home against the Brewers, and they got absolutely dog walked by the Brewers. And then they went to Colorado and lost 2 out of 3. So there's not a lot of positives to talk about except maybe the offense, but I'll get there in just a minute. So Tuesday, they got absolutely blanked by the Brewers 10-0. Bryce Elder once again proved that he is not a big league starter. I do not want to see this guy pitch. I don't want to see him spot start for the Braves again. It doesn't need to happen. We've seen this too many times. He's either really good or he's god awful. And they can't have the god awful again. They are in the third wild card spot right now, but they're hanging on by a thread. So needless to say, I'd rather see AJ Smith-Shawver get that chance, or honestly just have a bullpen game. Okay, Wednesday they lost 8-5. Chris Sale didn't have his best stuff. He only went 4 2/3, but he only gave up 2 runs. He had a really high pitch count, but he still had 10 Ks. Pierce Johnson came in. He only threw a third of an inning, gave up 3 runs. It kind of tanked from there. But the offense had 5 extra base hits and 10 hits total. So the offense actually, pretty much did their part, because if you're putting up 5 runs, that should put you in a position to win. And then Thursday's game. Thursday's game was absolutely embarrassing. It was a 16-7 loss. Charlie Morton, I love the guy. I think he is one of the most genuine people in all of Major League Baseball. He has had a really interesting career. Didn't really, get his career really going until he was, in basically his mid-30s. He went 2 2/3. He gave up 8 runs. He only had 3 Ks. This is his last season. And if he wants to keep pitching, it doesn't need to be in a Braves uniform. I still love the heroics from the World Series run. Pitching on a broken leg. And, it's a great moment in Braves history, but I think it's time for Charlie to go ahead and hit the dusty trail, and it's time for him to retire. And I think he knows that. So yeah, we got absolutely waxed by the Brewers, and then went out to Colorado this weekend. They lost 6-5 Friday night. Grant Holmes pitched 5 innings and gave up 5 earned runs. But what was interesting to me, Joe, is he actually had 20 swinging strikes and 15 strikes looking. For those of you who don't know, that is really good stuff, especially in Colorado where the air is thinner and the ball doesn't move the same. If you've ever talked to or listened to anybody talk about pitching at Coors Field, most breaking balls don't really move that well there. So that was really impressive from Grant Holmes. He had 8 Ks, even though he gave up 5 earned runs. I don't know that he has a future in this rotation, but I do think that he has some kind of role. Maybe he's the mop-up guy. Maybe he's just the long reliever. But needless to say, there is something there. The offense, once again, looked actually really well. They had 12 hits, 6 extra base hits. But AJ Minter ended up taking the L. And Joe, as of not too long ago, actually, the Braves put AJ Minter back on the IL because of some left hip inflammation. They're not even sure if he's going to pitch again this year, which is really concerning for AJ and really sad, because he's had a really a pretty good career with the Braves. This is a free agency year for him. So interested to see what's going to happen with him, if he's going to be out for the year, because obviously that's really going to mess up his free agency. So we'll see what happens. Let's see. Saturday, we actually got back in the win column. We won 11-8, which in my opinion was probably one of the better wins this season, because the offense had to keep coming back and keep coming back. And they did it. They had 11 hits. They had 5 extra base hits, including 4 home runs. Matt Olson hit a grand slam and a 2-run homer, which was really good to see. But the bad news is that we saw, once again, Max Fried struggling with his command. Max Fried is known for his command. He's got good stuff. He's got good command, usually, not right now. And he is just struggling out there. I don't know if that neuritis in his arm is still bothering him, or what's going on. But needless to say, he's not doing great. It's not really fun to watch him pitch, because when you don't have exceptionally overpowering stuff, you got to locate that, and he's not doing that. So needless to say, they still got the win, which was good. And then Sunday, Joe, let me just tell a story real quick. So the Braves went up 8-2, and I actually was running some errands, so I kind of turned the game off so I could run these errands and get some stuff done, right? Not 20 minutes later, I decided to check my phone, and the Braves are down 9-8. I was quite embarrassed, honestly. I don't even play for the team, and I was embarrassed. I'm like, okay, we just gave up 7 runs to the Rockies in the 8th, which honestly has got to be the worst collapse of all time at Coors Field. I couldn't believe that happened. Luke Jackson has not been good. He wasn't good before he came over. He's basically a reliever swap at the deadline. I would much rather see Bill Hernandez have that spot over Luke Jackson. I'm not really sure what he's doing on this roster. He gave up 400 runs. This dude couldn't get 3 outs against a Rockies team that sucks. It's time for him to go. We love the vibes of Luke Jackson. He's a good guy. But I don't care about vibes right now. I care about winning, and he's not doing anything to contribute to the winning part. The offense, once again, looked great. They put up 8 runs. They had 13 hits and 4 homers. That's awesome. That's great. 8 runs should be able to win you the ball game. And once again, Joe, what irritated me the most about this game is we saw another quality start by Spencer Schwellenbach. He went 6 innings. He gave up 2 earned runs, and he had 7 Ks. They wasted a quality start from him at Coors Field, which, once again, like I was just saying, pitching well at Coors Field is hard, which is why nobody really wants to go pitch there because it's hard to pitch there. So I have just been really impressed with Spencer Schwellenbach. This cat, Joe, I'm going to be honest with you, he might be the number 2 guy next year. It might be like Strider, Swelly, Sale, or, like he may be the 3 guys. So it may be Strider, Sale, Swelly. But he has really good stuff. He's got outstanding command, and he can pump it up 96, 97 to get an out. I've been thoroughly impressed with the guy. And just, I said I was going to talk a little bit about the offense. I'm going to talk about it real quick. Since the All-Star break, the Braves have 49 home runs, which is the most in Major League Baseball, or at least tied for it. Unfortunately, they also have the 3rd most strikeouts with 259. Not good. Another interesting thing that I found is they actually have the 2nd least amount of doubles. In 26 games or something since the All-Star break, they only have 28 doubles. I don't know how you only hit 28 doubles in 20-something games, but that's not good. Now, I will say this, Joe. Pitching has been terrible for the Braves since the All-Star break, but not necessarily because of anything on their own doing. They are giving up a whopping 357 BABIP right now, which is extremely unlucky. That is a league high by a long shot. They've got a 4.98 ERA, which is 23rd in MLB, but only a 4.01 FIP, which once again, if those numbers are a little closer together, you probably see the pitching staff doing a little bit better. So needless to say, hopefully that the bad luck on the pitching side gets better for the Braves. But boy, it's been rough. It's been rough. It's been not fun to watch. On a positive note, thank God Michael Harris is looking good down at Gwinnett. He's going to be back on the 14th. But Joe, I'm going to be honest with you. Somebody has to go on this roster. And after what I just watched in the first inning from Ramon Laureano, I can't tell you who it's going to be. I imagine it will be either Laureano or Duvall. I still think it should be Duvall because Duvall's doing absolutely nothing for you. Laureano seems to make the most bonehead decisions or the most bonehead plays, and that costs the team a lot, or at least I feel like it does. So yeah, I don't know which one of those guys is going to go. I have a feeling it's going to be one of them. It might be Duvall. They got him to be a platoon player with Jared Cullen. Well, that all sounds fine and dandy, right? But here's the thing: if Duvall is going to be a platoon player with Jared Cullen, that means he's going to have to hit well against left-handed pitching, right? Well, that's all fine and dandy, but against left-handed starters, this guy has an OPS of 586. 586 is unacceptable if you're going to be a platoon player, especially on the weak side of the team. I really did see Tony get those because he plays much better defense and he runs even better. So I don't see a real purpose in Duvall being on this team besides the fact that he's a good guy and Blooper loves his kid. So besides that, I think the Braves probably cut Laureano, even though it should probably be Duvall. Other than that, I can't wait until Michael Harris gets back because even though his bat was not playing exceptionally well, his defense is Gold Glove caliber. He is fantastic out in center field. He glides around. He's not Andrew Jones, but he ain't far off. So I am very much excited to see him get back out there and play center field every day. That was a little long-winded, a little bit of venting. But man, this team is frustrating because the offense finally comes around and the pitching staff just goes to crap. So yeah. Joe, what else did we say we were going to talk about tonight?
Well, we mentioned there were a couple teams that have been absolutely surging in the second half of the season and kind of since May. And two teams in particular that you wanted to talk about, or we both wanted to talk about, were the Diamondbacks and the Padres, who are slowly creeping up on the Dodgers. They both have the same record, and they are both 3.5 games back of the Los Angeles Dodgers, who just got Mookie Betts back today, and he did Mookie Betts things and hit a home run and his first game back. But nonetheless, the Diamondbacks and the Padres have been tearing the cover off the ball and pitching their asses off since, kind of the start of the season. And I'm going to lump the Astros in there. Like I mentioned earlier, 50-31 since, I think it was since May. And that's on a 100 pace win for a season. And they're following the same model as the Astros. It's not about how you start, it's about how you finish. And they've been getting the job done. And they've been creeping back in. The Dodgers thought that they were probably going to have the division locked up, but they just refused to die. And kind of like the Mariners, the Dodgers kind of went into a little bit of a funk for a couple weeks, and the Diamondbacks and the Padres just took advantage of that opportunity and kind of climbed back into the race.
Well, I think it's really interesting, Joe, because I was looking at the Diamondbacks stats before we hopped on. Since the All-Star break, Joe, they have been phenomenal. They've got a 144 WRC plus as a team. That is if that was just a single baseball player, that is a really good baseball player. 100 is league average for those of you who don't know. So that's 44% better than league average. The Padres WRC plus is 126, so they are also playing really well. Here's something interesting, Joe, about the Diamondbacks too. They rank in the top 5 in walk percentage and strikeout percentage for the offense. So they take their walks and they're not striking out as much. And also, too, for those of you who don't know, there's a lot of guys on the Diamondbacks that can fly. It doesn't matter if it's Corbin Carroll. Ketel Marte actually can run well. They've got so many guys that can move around the bases. Their pitching staff has actually been pretty good, too. They are top 3 in FIP at 347. And something else that I found interesting, especially when it comes to a playoff scenario, is they are number 1 in home runs allowed at 0.58. So that means that they are allowing like less than 1 home run a game. Historically, in the postseason, the team that hits more home runs wins the series. Okay? If you're not giving up home runs, you are putting yourself in a much better position to win ball games. I don't know how good this Diamondbacks team is going to be in a postseason series, but all of those things lead to wins. Not giving up homers, taking your walks, not having many strikeouts, hitting a lot of home runs. They are doing that and not giving them up. As a team right now, they've got an OPS of 888 since the All-Star break. Once again, not to bring the Braves into this, but last year they had a historic offense that had an OPS north of 840, which was the best all time. And this Diamondbacks team since the All-Star break is 40 points better. If that doesn't bring home how well they're playing, I don't know what does. They are fantastic right now. They are really on a hot streak. I don't know that they can come back and actually take that division from the Dodgers, but they are doing everything right to get it done. There is a really good chance that the Dodgers are not the NL West champs this year. Don't be surprised if it's the Diamondbacks. Don't be surprised if it's the Padres. We all know what the Padres can do against the Dodgers in a 3 or 5 game series. So I thought it was just looking at some of those numbers, the Diamondbacks are doing everything right to win and also win in the postseason. Hitting a lot of homers, not giving up homers, taking their walks, not striking out, running the bases well, which seems to be a problem with the Braves right now. They don't want to run the bases well, not to mention they're slow as molasses. But man, I've been really impressed with looking at some of their stats, Joe. Not to mention too, they have just been real dogs on the team, like with Doc Peterson, Ketel
Yep.
Marte. They're good. They're dangerous.
Yeah, so in terms of offensive production, Arizona and San Diego are fourth and fifth when it comes to WRC plus, 2 points behind the Los Angeles Dodgers. Um, they can both hit. I think that I honestly believe that the Padres have the better shot of dethroning the Dodgers because their FIP as a team is better. And I know that FIP is just one stat, but the Diamondbacks lag behind the rest of the league. They're like middle of the road, 19th in FIP. So I think that over time you'll really start to see San Diego kind of separate themselves, and maybe you'll see a little bit of regression on the pitching side from Arizona. But like you said, they're both playing really well right now, and I would not be surprised to see Los Angeles not be the NL West division champions. But in my opinion, it's more likely to be the Padres than it is the Diamondbacks. Although both teams have some really good experience beating up on the Dodgers when when the lights are the brightest. So it really is a toss up. I mean,
Yeah. Well, I agree, Joe. Man, that's going to be such a wild race going down the stretch. I'm just kind of
yeah,
looking at some of the other division races right now. Um, Either Baltimore or New York, we know is going to win the AL East. I don't know that Minnesota or Kansas City catch Cleveland. Um, Obviously, we know that Houston and Seattle will be a dogfight. Philly's probably got the Braves division wrapped up. Uh, Milwaukee is going to win the NL Central. And then the NL West, like we were just talking about, is pretty much up for grabs with only two teams behind them at 3.5 games out. Um,
yeah,
I'm going to be really interested to see how the NL West turns out. Now, granted, the Dodgers have been decimated by injuries like a lot of other teams, but that once again that just kind of tests your depth. And how good is your depth? Um, we have seen the Braves holes in their depth, and it hasn't been pretty. And neither has the Dodgers. So, man, it's going to be a really interesting next couple of weeks. God, we've only got like I think 6 weeks left in the regular season, Joe. Isn't that crazy to think about?
yeah,
Like maybe
it
7 weeks
is.
total.
And not to make this about the Astros again, but you mentioned depth, and the Astros have been obliterated by injuries on the pitching side. And then obviously, losing a perennial all-star or an all-star, and then an MVP candidate, in June, and not having him for 3 months, and the Astros still being able to survive and climb their way back into the AL West race, kind of just goes to show the depth that they've had over the last 7-8 years that I don't think any other organization has been able to replicate. Um, I mean, as you mentioned, um, the Dodgers have been decimated with injuries, but they also spent $1 billion on their roster this offseason. They shouldn't really need that depth. And I get it, injuries happen. Even when you spend money, injuries happen. But you know, you spend that money knowing that you're taking that risk, and that hopefully you've got you know guys in place to come up when those injuries do happen, because injuries are inevitable in all sports. And I think the Astros have done a good job of being able to supplement for when guys go down. Like last year, when Altuve was out for the first half of the season, and Dubon came in and filled his spot, pretty well. Um, but speaking of guys that can fill in, the Dodgers just released Ahmed Rosario, which I think is very interesting. It's a very interesting move. I believe they released him in to correspond with the Mookie Betts activation, but he's hitting I believe it was like 203. I'm looking at his baseball savant right now, and he's not really like uh, he's not really tearing the cover off the ball. I think his expected stats are probably I think he's probably due for a little bit of regression, and that's probably why they cut him loose when they did. But I mean, he's better than Aledmys Diaz, so maybe the Astros should take a look at him, take a flyer on him. Um, I know that he has some experience in the outfield, but not as much as Aledmys does. But Aledmys Diaz is just rotting on the bench right now, and I don't really know what the Astros' plan for him is. He's probably going to be cut when Kyle Tucker comes back. So I don't really know I don't know what the Astros bench is going to look like for very much longer. They've got Pedro Leon up right now and Zach DeZenzo, who Zach DeZenzo has been hitting very well to start his major league career. He's been an extra base hit machine. But Pedro Leon has looked pretty bad at the plate. So I assume that they're probably going to send him back down the first chance that they get as well. So with Tucker coming up, maybe they send Leon down, and then maybe they could take a flyer on Ahmed Rosario and cut Aledmys Diaz. But I mean, I would take a chance on him. He's batting 305 right now, and you could really kind of use that bat to solidify a pretty thin bench.
Well, Joe, I was looking at something the other day because I know that Austin Riley made a swing adjustment around the time of June 14th. Okay, that was the last time that he got to meet with his beloved hitting coach Mike Rumley. And Joe, let me just tell you, it has paid dividends for the Braves. He has been a top 5 player in the National League since then. He's got an F4 of 2.6, which is good for 5th in the National League. He's got an OPS over 1,000 in that time period. He's got a WRC plus of 174. He's got 15 home runs. He has played exceptionally well, but unfortunately, the MVP voting didn't start June 14th. Otherwise, he would be a top 5 candidate, no doubt. Right now, Joe, there's like 3 or 4 guys that are kind of leading the charge. You've got Shohei Ohtani, you've got Ketel Marte, you've got Ellie De La Cruz, you've got Marcell Ozuna, you've got Francisco Lindor, and you've got maybe that's pretty much it. Are there any of them, Joe, that you feel like maybe I don't know how to say this. Let's just say this: who do you think's going to win it? Because I have my thoughts about the top 2, and then I think below the top 2, I think there's not I don't think that that third is as close as what people think it is.
I think it's a one-horse race, dog. I know that you're probably gonna throw Marcell Ozuna in there and try to make a case for him, but it's Shohei Ohtani. Like it's not. He's got the name. He's in LA. He's hitting the cover off the ball. He's gonna have one of the best seasons in history as a designated hitter. And that's not even including the fact that he is now throwing off the mound. I believe was a report I saw, in hopes that he can be ready for October to potentially pitch. Yeah, it's a one-horse race in my opinion. It's not as close as the AL race. But even I think that is Aaron Judge is starting to separate himself from Bobby Witt. So I think it's kind of a one-horse race in each league at this point. I think it's going to be Shohei and Judge, and it's not to say that the other guys aren't great, but they've both got the names and the markets behind them, and it's all about who the writers like, storylines, and they have both been respectively the best team in their league for most of the season. And they're both having, otherworldly seasons. So that's
Okay,
kind
I'm
of
gonna
my
pose this.
take on
I'm
it.
gonna pose this question because right now I think that Ozuna is like probably like top 5 at best, not even top 4. Because I think that Ketel Marte actually has a very solid case over Shohei. Here's why. Um, if the Diamondbacks win that division, Joe, over the Dodgers, I'm gonna say this right now. First of all, Shohei's been healthy all year, which means that he has actually been able to contribute or not contribute all season. Um, if the Diamondbacks win that division over the Dodgers, I think that Ketel Marte actually needs serious consideration because right now, Ketel Marte actually leads him in B WAR and is actually zero point 0.2 points behind him in F WAR. Um, his obviously he doesn't have the stolen bases like Shohei. He plays great defense. Um, he doesn't strike out much, and he is really basically leading the charge. He doesn't have the name. He plays in Arizona. And more than likely it would go to Shohei. But if something happens where the Diamondbacks storm that division and end up winning it, I think that the voters are going to maybe have a little bit more difficult time picking Shohei over him, especially since Shohei was just a DH. Um, I don't think that
Well,
Elliot De La Cruz has a real shot, to be honest.
yeah. Now, I'm gonna give you a different framework on that thought process. And you mentioned why I think that it will be Shohei Ohtani no matter what. And um you mentioned Ketel Marte's F WAR and B WAR. And part of those stats are part of what calculates those stats is defensive metrics and the way that a player plays defense. And that's something Shohei Ohtani has not been able to do,
Mm.
whether it be pitching or he doesn't play in the outfield anymore, but if he needed to, he has put up these numbers strictly as a designated hitter. And as I mentioned, one of the greatest seasons strictly as a designated hitter. And that's not even if he pitches. If he comes back and he throws even 3 or 4 games for the Dodgers to end the regular season before heading into October, I don't think that it'll be close. Like you said, he's got Ketel Marte's got 2 or 3 more points on F WAR and B WAR than him. That's defense right there. That's what I chalk that up to. And Shohei Ohtani has been putting up that high of a stat without that defensive aspect, and that's why I think it's clear and cut. Um, I think that he's going to be the winner.
Honestly, I think one of the things that actually could hurt Shohei is if he were to get hurt, which is a great possibility. Because that dude, it seems like every year, sometime around August, um, he I don't want to say craps out for the year, but tends to get hurt. That would be probably one of the only things that could actually really take him out of the running here. But it's Ellie De La Cruz, Joe, is such an interesting case, because he makes a ton of errors, but he also makes a ton of plays because he's so fast and moves so well that he's able to make so many more plays because of that. Not to mention he runs like a gazelle, which is, I mean, he's got 59 stolen bases. He's got 20 homers. I mean, he might go like 30-80, you know? He's got a 31% strikeout rate, which is very high. And his WRC plus is only 128. Joe, if this dude could ever just get his like strikeout rate to like 24%, Ellie De La Cruz might be the best player in the majors by a long shot. Because he would be a true actual player. But until he gets that K rate down, and really just gets that average up, it's a 264, so it's very respectable. Don't get me wrong. But if that K rate comes down, what if it comes down 10%? We're talking about this dude hitting like 290, 300, with an OBP of like 370, 380. We know the slug is going to be there. I mean, this guy, he's got a lot of potential to be very good in the years to come. He's also still very young. Lindor was on a real hot streak for a while, but he's really cooled off since then. But a lot of his, once again, comes from defense. I mean, not to mention too, if the Mets miss the playoffs, which is a good possibility, or they might take that third spot. I don't know. I'm the AL MVP race to me is still Joe. Where all of the excitement's at. Like we said, we both agree that it's still probably Judge. For one, because he's probably going to hit 55, 60 homers this year. But man, Bobby Witt is really just he is fun to watch. That guy's unreal.
He's making his own case. He's making a very strong case, but
Yes.
I just think the way that Aaron Judge started off the season and the way that he's been able to overcome that and still put up the crazy offensive numbers that he has really just goes to show what kind of dominant player he is offensively. And he doesn't play horrible defense. So I think that really kind of just sets him above Bob Witt.
It's crazy right now, Joe, that we are less than 120 games into the season, and Judge and Bobby Witt Jr. both have an F4 over 8, which for those of you who don't know, and a WAR over 8 is an MVP caliber season. So both of these guys, with 40 games left to play, have MVP caliber seasons already in the bag. And to me, that is just that really just speaks to the season that both of them are having. I mean, Aaron Judge has a WRC plus of 217, which is, I mean, that we're talking like Bonds and Ruth territory. I mean, and honestly, Joe, out of all of the people that I feel the worst for, you know who it is? It's Juan Soto, because his own freaking teammate has a WRC plus 25 points higher than he does. And Soto is having a career year with a 6.9 WAR F4 himself. So for me, it's one of those things. It's like the AL MVP race is just wild, I mean, what if Bobby Witt in the month of September hits 10 home runs, and that gets him to like 35, and he's got 40 stolen bases,
Yeah.
I mean, and then all of a sudden he's like a 10 WAR player, and we all know how good his defense is and how well he runs the bases, which Judge doesn't do those anymore, not as well. So it's looking at the stats, it is really interesting. I mean, you've got 4 guys at the top, and then it drastically falls off from there. I mean, you've got Judge, Witt, Soto, Henderson, who are all going to have 8 or more at the end of the season, and then it drops off to like Jarren Duran and Jose Ramirez and Rafael Devers and Stephen Kwan and Brent Rooker, and it just goes it literally goes straight south from there. I mean, it is wild, but it's fun too at the same time. I mean, I would love for Gunnar, because if any of those guys were in the National League, all of them would win the MVP over Shohei because they're having a better season overall. But not in the American League. So I don't know, just wild. But it's fun too. It's really fun to watch all of them play. I am still interested though. Is Soto going to sign an extension with the Yankees, or is he going to go elsewhere? Because I'm not
no
convinced
idea.
he's KR.
I don't know. I'd like to see him in an Astros uniform. I've already expressed that. He hits very well in Minute Maid Park. But that would obviously mean probably letting go of Alex Brickman, who has come into his own this season. He is it's turned out that he is having a very good season after having a really bad first 2 months of the season. He's started to play his way into a pretty decent-sized contract. Now it'll be interesting to see if teams hold, his start against him. He's only going to get older. He is notoriously a slow starter, and as we've been able to see, uh, you know, that's like the start of the season it's important to get yourself off like on the right foot. As much as it is about finishing, you gotta if you really want to set yourself like self apart from other teams, you have to have a good first month of the season. And Alex Bregman just has never been that guy throughout his career, and it'll be interesting to see how teams negotiate with that. But yeah, I don't even know who would be in the potential bidding for Juan Soto. Like, what team is going to shell out that much money? I mean, he, like you said, is having a career year. He's got a 186 WRC plus, and he's just killing it. I mean, I said it from the very beginning. He is the perfect Yankee, which is why I think he will continue to be with the Yankees. I think that he's going to be a Yankee for now until the end of his career. But if Steinbrenner wants to be a cheap ass, then that's his loss. But I think that would be a huge mistake. So that's just my opinion. I don't even know what team. If you say the Dodgers, then I'm just I'm gonna lose my mind. So I don't know. I don't know. Those are the only two teams that have the money to pay for him. So I don't know who could.
And that's the thing too, Joe. Like we all agree that the Dodgers have the money, but they already have so much money already dedicated, not only to like 2025, but also like 2030, 2032, 2035. So really and truly, like, how much more in debt in the future are they going to want to continue to go down? Like, are they going to have a payroll of $90 million in 2036, in 2026? You get what I'm saying? So, I mean, I don't know where they draw the line. I don't know which teams are going to want to pay him, because you are going to truly get a generational talent. Juan Soto is this generation's basically Ted Williams. I'm not saying he is Ted Williams. That's a totally different era. But he is along that same caliber. Do the Red Sox want to shell out that money? Do the Braves want to shell out that money? Alex Anthopoulos got paid through 2030. He has already made his money. That could be the one deal that he makes in his career. He can offer him that 8 or 9 year deal at $40 to $50 million a year. I'm not saying it will happen. I don't think it will happen. Good if Jim Crane really wants to shell it out. Who's going to do that? Go ahead.
I want to go back to what you said about the Red Sox. That would be him and Rafael Devers in the same lineup. Two lefties that can absolutely mash. That would be insane. That would be an interesting team for him to be on the radar.
I mean, honestly,
that would be crazy because he's an ex-Yankee, and then going to the Red Sox, and you pair him up with him and Devers. That would be insane.
I mean, honestly,
that would be crazy.
It's not out of the question because they just have to spend the money. I mean, you're looking at a lineup that would be Duran, Soto, Devers, Casas. I don't know that you can name a top 4 that will be better than that. Now, is that going to happen? Probably not. But if he doesn't sign an extension with the Yankees, that free agency is going to be wild. We are going to see some astronomical numbers. I mean, what about the Giants, Joe? They've lost out on Trey Turner. They have lost out on Aaron Judge. They have lost. I think they were actually in the running for Bryce Harper. They have never gotten the superstar that they wanted. They have money to spend. Can you see Juan Soto playing left field in a Giants jersey, hitting balls into McCovey Cove?
No, I can't. And you just mentioned why. While they do have McCovey Cove, I think that all of Juan Soto's value is in his bat, and he would just be putting himself in a horrible offensive environment for 82 games of the season. I don't see that for him. I think that him in Yankee Stadium or him at Minute Maid or Boston with those weird dimensions, playing to his strength would be insane. He could Minute Maid Park. He can play the shittiest left field of all time. I don't care because he's got the Crawford boxes right behind him. He can also just stick his bat out, and that ball is going out into the Crawford boxes. He can stick his bat out, and he's hitting them into the second deck, right in front of El Grande, like he did in 2019 World Series. He would be the perfect Astro. He would be the perfect Astro. I said he would be the perfect Yankee. He would also be the perfect Astro because Minute Maid Park's dimensions are tiny for him, and a guy like Yordan Alvarez. Him and Yordan Alvarez and Jose Altuve and Yair Diaz. Ooh,
Joe,
I would cry. I would never come on here and slander Jim Crane again. Everything I would go back and I would delete all of the recordings that we've made up until this point, or I talk shit about Jim Crane if he signed Juan Soto. And you can hold me to that. If that happens, I will do that.
100% hold you to that. I don't want to talk about today, Joe, because we're running a little late. But later on down the road, I want to talk about Jose Altuve. Because a lot of his underlying metrics right now do not look good. Obviously, he's been in a slump, which he does every year at some point or another. But if you're looking at his Savant page, a lot of his stats are not looking great. His power numbers are down. We know all that, but I want to talk about that at a later date. Maybe if nothing exciting happens this week, we can bring that up later. But man, can you imagine Soto and Yordan back to back? Because I can. That sounds great. Here's a question though, Joe. Would you take Soto over Tucker?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You didn't have to think long. So I would. No questions asked.
It's just because Soto's younger, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like a year younger.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Joe, is there anything else that we need to discuss tonight? We've had some really good conversations about Juan Soto. We've had really good conversations about the Dodgers, the Diamondbacks, the Padres, our own teams. Is there anything else that we need to talk about?
No, not really. I think that pretty much wraps it up.
Awesome. Well, I think we had a really great discussion tonight. Guys, thank you once again for listening to the show. We really appreciate you guys, especially watching us on YouTube. Every week, our views keep going up. So if you could like, share, and subscribe to the Throwing Partners podcast on YouTube, we would really appreciate it. And for those of you who really don't want to watch it on YouTube, but you want to listen to it, we are on Apple Podcasts. You can see our little logo. You can listen to us on your way to work or in the gym or whenever you feel like it. And if you watch us, if you listen to us on Apple, please leave us a 5-star review, because that actually gets the show a little bit more attention. So thanks again, everybody, for all of your support, whether it's on YouTube or Apple or Instagram or wherever. We really appreciate it. So thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful week.